transparent plexiglass walls, but you see walls going up all around you. I want to hope and that is a temporary issue, that we're not going to go back to the classical cubicle of the office. But if we do go back to needing cubicles, I think, as I mentioned, we have acoustic solutions that enable you to do that in a very natural and attractive way, rather than having sort of very dull and enclosed areas where, people were used to working in these very large rooms in different rows. So I think it will impact design to a certain extent, but hopefully, as I said, but designing better and for the better of the people who are in the buildings. We mentioned many times that we spent 90% of our time indoors. Before, the balance was maybe more office than it was home. I think obviously in these last months, our balance has been working from home a lot more, and we've all discovered aspects of our homes that we don't like. So, the noisy room, the cold room, the room where there's too much sunlight. So we do see, and we've seen the response from the European Union, where they actually have come out with a recovery package for the post-COVID stimulus packages and financial aid, where they actually put building renovation at the top of the agenda. So, of course, that's because construction industry creates jobs, but it's also because they really have understood how much people have either liked or disliked being at home in this period. I mean,
and I'm wondering, I know that you said in Europe 41% are thinking about moving to the suburbs. I also think after having been sequestered, maybe more people will want to be with a family, and we'll get to that since you were away from yours. And maybe, if not larger homes, maybe homes that might be able to accommodate more people being online, not in their own cubicle, but maybe in their own little nook of the house, or if they are online, it might be quieter. If someone's doing a video or remote learning, they're not hearing the other person, and so on. It's fascinating to see, to see how that might change. But you're very smart to say, is this a trend or a momentary reaction? And I guess that all depends on where we go from here.
Yeah, I mean, we've had colleagues that have had to take turns of working from home because they couldn't both be on calls at the same time because the apartment was simply too small and the acoustics not good enough. And so, of course, yes, working from home is an option. You see more and more companies talking about it. But for some people, we actually had a lot of people saying to us, but, I really want to come to the office because my home and with the children not going to school, it doesn't allow me to be able to work from home. That's also a reality.
Yeah, and some of that, there might be some simple solutions to that as well. Speaking of simple solutions, and I'm not sure this is so simple, but talk a little bit about, does marketing, or shall we say the role of marketing, make a difference to purpose? I know that's a little bit of a loaded question, but it might talk more about to the structure of it. But could you just address that for a bit?
Yeah. So of course my answer is going to be yes, absolutely it does. But I think, and we were just recently also discussing this with my team, there's so much talk about the digital transformation out in the world and how the sales organizations need to transition to more digital tools, which of course they do. But I think the other key aspect that a lot of people are maybe missing, and which is highly relevant, is that today sustainability has also disrupted marketing and sales and communication, and you can't have one without the other. I really don't believe that you can create an impactful and strong marketing story if you don't have a strong purpose and you don't have a strong sustainability agenda. So marketing really has eaten away at the sales funnel, if you would like, because the whole digital interaction with your customer is no longer led by the sales representative who goes out and closes the deal, but it's actually driven and handheld by the marketing department almost to the end. So more than ever, your marketing story, your purpose, your sustainability agenda are where your customer sees you, where your customer interacts right up until the closing transaction. So for sure, marketing is today much further along in the sales funnel than it would be 5-6 years ago. Partly because of the digital transition and partly because of the whole storytelling aspect and the engagement that people want to have with the brand of their choice.
That's very interesting. Also, though, I'm wondering, so marketing becomes the communicator of this, yes. Both, I would assume, internally, but also externally. What about the role of the CEO and the C-suite? Do they allow marketing to take the lead on these communications, or are you already aligned in terms of what that message is?
Yeah, I memean, there's a lot of alignment. So I'm in a very fortunate situation where I report to the CEO, and in my organization, in my part of the organization, I am responsible for marketing, communication, public affairs, and sustainability. And I'm also responsible for product management. So if you would like, having that suite of responsibility in my area and reporting directly to the CEO, of course, allows me to have a lot of that alignment already in place. In many corporations, they sit into different areas and report into different functions. I think having the marketing organization as part of the C-suite means that the alignment happens before you go out with communication, and that's essential. I'm also very fortunate that I have a CEO that believes in this agenda as passionately and as strongly as I do, as do the rest of my colleagues in group management. And of course, that's a plus for me, but for the entire organization, because it's really heartfelt, and we all share that passion equally.
Yeah, and you can certainly see it so much a part of the ROCKWOOL mission, and not only in the products that you create, but in their results and in changing cities. Let me ask you something which I wonder about. You know, a word like purpose now has become a bit of a marketing buzzword, and it's become, as they say, a bit loaded. Is there a better word that we could use to describe all of this, or a better phrase?
You know, I agree with you that it's almost overconsumed, and that happens. It's also the same with, sustainability.
Yes,
everyone
right.
is sustainable and works with it. So I think that, that tends to happen when people see that this is a trend that is growing exponentially. But I do think it captures it. I do think it's trying to express that you need to have a sense of being. So what we try to say, what we discuss often in group management is, okay, when this team of group management is retired and we're no longer here, what is the legacy we're going to leave behind? Mm-hmm. What is the new team going to say about us? Were we the ones that, drove sustainability? Were we the ones that got it wrong? Were we the ones that, changed the ROCKWOOL story? So I think for us, the purpose is also linked to that legacy that we want to leave behind. ROCKWOOL has a strong history, 80-year history, very embedded in the original family culture. It's a family-owned company. It still is. It's a listed company, but still very much family-owned. And we feel that culture in the company every day. And we believe that we've translated that culture into the purpose. And as I said, we hope it will stand the test of time. So I like the idea of purpose. I think that it's still a relevant word. But agree with you that we all have to, as with everything, we also have to be very clear on what we actually mean and not use it too generically.
Yeah, and unpack it and make it work for you, and certainly make it quite original. What is the next evolution of purpose? Is there an evolution to this?
I think there is, and I think we'll see it. I think we will see it, as you said, go closer and closer to sustainability. Mm-hmm. I think our purpose is going to lead us to more, social aspects. When we talk about environmental, social, and governance, I think the social is becoming more and more important. Of course, governance in companies, in order to have ethical business, etc., is important. But that whole social aspect is becoming more relevant than ever. So I think we're going to see ourselves transition into that. But I also think that we're going to set ourselves, rather than just a purpose, I think we're going to start communicating about purpose goals. How do you measure purpose? It's okay to say it, but how do you actually measure it? And actually, I was being interviewed by a journalist earlier today, and we were talking about the fact that, I'm actually very fortunate that I don't have to invent anything, because the products that we have are such a perfect fit for a strong story about purpose, because they are inherently sustainable, they're natural, they have so many human benefits. And I was asked the question, well, what if, what would you think about changing companies? And I think that I would probably have difficulty in working for a company where I would have to invent the sustainable story, or invent a purpose that wasn't really reflecting who we were. So I feel very privileged by the fact that actually the story comes together itself.
But I also recall that, for 75 years, ROCKWOOL existed. But when you did come up with a concept of purposeful marketing, as we said at the opening, it changed everything. Because it did align things. So in other words, you could be an extraordinarily successful and sustainable company, but unless you put that in the context of what your stakeholders need to understand and let people know some of the benefits to mega trends like urbanization and changing cities, it may not be as clear. And it becomes a great differentiator, I would think.
For sure, it becomes a great differentiator, but it also opens you up to a lot more scrutiny. And when you start actively articulating and talking about purpose, you can have people that agree and see it, and also people that disagree with it. So by communicating more and articulating more what your ambitions are and what your purpose is, you also open up yourself to a lot more criticism. And of course, we know with the current environment in social media and on digital, that everybody today is an influencer. Everybody today has a voice, because you have a voice through these channels. So while it does on one side support your story and support your positioning, you're suddenly sort of naked and more transparent to a bigger audience, and also have to accept the criticisms that come with purposeful marketing and talking about having purpose and meaning. Because of course, some people will see it as, okay, you're just doing it because it's the latest buzzword. Okay, another company that has a corporate purpose, another company that is talking about a green agenda. So it is, highly important, but there's also a lot of caution around doing it because of that exposure that you have, and the additional scrutiny that you're under by such a broader audience.
And I can understand that, and some of it is misperception. Some of it is and it's difficult. I guess the best that one can do is do what you do well, and demonstrate that, and be as authentic as possible. But I understand, and I also think that's one of the obstacles to some people wanting to become a purpose-led company, because of the fear of that level of criticism when you haven't got it, you haven't got it quite right sometimes.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting issue. So let me just ask, what's next for ROCKWOOL? Are there marketing goals or that you might have globally? What's next for the company?
Yeah. So I think that, our goal right now is to create more of a global platform. I think a lot of the communication and the activities we have done has been towards our key audience. But we want, there's a new audience out there that we need to capture. There's the architects of tomorrow, the designers and the urban planners of tomorrow. And it's talking much more to cities as a whole, so that cities are considered more holistically and that can incorporate all of our products within their portfolio. So we are actually looking at at reaching a broader audience, not talking only to our niche construction audience, but being a more recognizable brand so that people are aware of what we have to offer and the benefits of our products and to what context they fit into